try to find the easiest route. I did my LSAT, and I got a very decent score on it. Not great, but decent. It proved by how well I studied for it. I took one practice test, and that was it. And then I did that a month before my LSAT, and I took it, and I was able to apply at the school that I wanted to. So I am a graduate, like I said earlier, from Hamline University, so I thought it only made sense to apply at Mitchell Hamline School of Law. And that is for a couple reasons. One, that everyone should know about for the Minnesota school regions. As of now, only St. Thomas and Mitchell Hamline School of Law offer part-time programs, and they have a quite robust system to help cater to a lot of different needs, opposed to the U of M Law School, which only has full-time enrollment options. So I needed to work full-time, especially with the wedding coming up. Needed to have a lot of money, so the part-time program was for me. And I did not apply at the University of St. Thomas, so I kind of narrowed down my schools quite drastically. And I will say that I do regret not applying at St. Thomas only for the fact that I could negotiate scholarship opportunities. So that was kind of a fault of my own for not doing that. However, a couple of years ago, there was a time in my life I was very down, and I really hated everyone and everything, so I just wanted to leave town. So on a whim, I applied at the University of Auckland, New Zealand Law School.
Really?
Wow.
I did, and I was like, screw everyone, I hate everyone. Me and my fiance were going to move to New Zealand. She can get a nursing job anywhere. I'm going to go to law school in New Zealand. Well, I submitted my application 2 years ago, and it's quite funny. About 3 weeks ago, I got an email from the University of Auckland saying that we've reviewed my application, and you're pretty much all set to go. You just need to sign a couple things, then we can have you admitted. But at this point in time, I've already completed a year at...
it took them 2 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
What?
Their internet is really, really slow. They have the worst internet in the world, actually, because they are the last in the chain to get the internet feed. I don't know much about technology, but that's pretty much what I got from that. So maybe that was why it took so long for them to process my application. But fear not, I did not go to New Zealand because I'm here.
I think actually time moves actually slower. It's relativity in New Zealand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I hear they don't have spiders there, though.
Really?
They do.
Do they?
Yeah, spiders are everywhere. You're never more than 3 feet away from a spider.
And you swallow like
Really?
6 in your life or something like
Yeah.
that. They're quite tasty,
I think it's like
nutritious.
6 a year.
Is it?
6 a year,
If you're
I've
me,
heard
I
that.
don't know.
I've heard
But
that.
it depends if you do it intentionally or not.
I should really get the facts on these. That might be a myth.
Right,
As
right.
As incoming law
No,
students, we should get
everything
the
we say
facts
is
on
true.
that, right?
Don't fact check. Don't, like I said, do not question authority.
Yeah.
Spiders will crawl in your mouth every day.
And you will eat
Deal
them.
with it.
Yeah.
It's
Protein.
good
It's good
exactly,
for you.
protein.
Yeah, so that's pretty much my whole applying to law school experience.
Awesome.
Mitch,
Well,
give us the details.
yeah, so my law school applications were only Mitchell, Hamline, St. Thomas, again, because I have to work full-time to support, I have a house and a wife and a kid, and they're very expensive, and in that order of expensiveness as well. And so so I really had to work full-time. So I can't not work full-time. And so it was between St. Thomas and Mitchell Hamline. The reason why I chose St. Thomas over Mitchell Hamline was because they have a very good ethics program there. I think a lot of it stems from Catholic social teaching. That's one of the reasons why I went to Notre Dame as well, is they had a great business ethics program. And so if you follow the School of Catholic Thought, that's one of the big tenets in there is kind of ethical business practices. So that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to go to St. Thomas, because I'm one day hoping to be able to teach business law and business ethics at a business school or law school. So
You want to be like a law priest?
No, I don't want to be a law priest. No, religion definitely isn't the factor, but I just am interested in ethics and specifically in business, making sure that we have more ethics in business, because I think I think ethics and integrity in business are extremely important, especially after the Great Recession and everything. That's clearly on a lot of people's minds, and although I think it may have gone down a little bit as the economy starts continuing to ramp up, I still think we need to keep the ethical business in the forefront of our minds.
It's funny because it's kind of like an oxymoron.
Business ethics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how people would think about that. Think about it that way. So, but anyway, that's my story. I only applied to the 2. When I got my MBA, I applied to like 8 or 9 different colleges. I almost went to Boston University to get my MBA because I actually had an international MBA where I would like go to China for like 3 or 4 months and live there.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
You speak any Chinese?
I don't. I did live there for 3 weeks, but
Was it mainly Mandarin or Cantonese?
it was Mandarin. So I was in Beijing, Xi'an, and Shanghai.
Okay.
So, but I went with a group of students, and so we just kind of explored different businesses within China, and that was back in 2007, just before the Beijing Olympics.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I was there, and we thought like the pollution and stuff was so horrible, and that was back like it was like 11, 12 years ago. So we can only imagine what they're going through right now. But
President
so
Xi.
anyway, yeah, if you're listening,
up.
do something about that pollution.
President Xi, when you hear this, just call. It's okay.
Right? And so yeah, that's why I chose St. Thomas. So, but we all know that the biggest deciders for law schools are your GPA and LSAT. More on the LSAT side. Can everybody? Abby, will you? Do you want to tell us your GPA and LSAT?
This is bad to do, but for educational purposes, I could do it.
Who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
Whatever.
You're already in the law school. They can't do anything now.
My LSAT was 168. I did take a lot of practice tests at home before going, although I didn't time myself like I was supposed to, but it still helped a lot. I recommend it, even though you have to pay for the real practice tests. You have to pay the admissions council to take their test. I'm still mad about that. But yeah, so my GPA was pretty good too. I got a 3.83 in undergrad.
Oh, that's so good.
That's very good. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And how many times did you take the LSAT?
Just once officially.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I signed up for it, and then last summer I was taking practice tests. I think I probably did like 7 practice tests.
Okay.
Wow.
So
That's quite a few. Yeah. How long a time do you think you actually, from like beginning to end, how long do you think you actually studied for it?
how many hours? How many
Well,
hours
how
did the test take?
how much time from like when you started, like the date you started to the day you actually took the test?
Oh,
how long of a time in between there?
I think I decided in June that I wanted to go to law school, and then I took the LSAT in September. So like 3 months.
Oh wow.
So
Pretty intensive studying then.
yeah, it wasn't too bad. Like 7 tests over that period of time. It's like not even 1 a week. So
It's still
Not
seems
even
very
1 a
stressful.
week. Okay, well.
yeah, I mean, yeah, the advisor at the U of M that advises any alumni who are thinking about going to any law school said there's like 72 tests out there, and if you have time, you should take all 72, which I was not interested in doing at all. So, but that kind of pressured me into doing at least a little more than I initially planned on. So,
Then Hannah, are you able to reveal
Sure. I don't
how well
care.
you did at school and on your LSAT for people that are interested?
Yeah, well, I got actually matched Abby. Got a 168. Took it twice, so I got a 168 my second time. Got a 162 the first time, but doesn't count because your school, Anthony Mitchell Hamlin, had changed its location, and I went to the wrong building. You know, when they say, like, figure out where the test is beforehand, that's true. Do that. So I kind of...
I was so paranoid about that when I made sure I drove to the specific location and, like, in the building. So, yeah, I was paranoid about that as well.
Yeah, I frantically rushed over, sure that they weren't going to let me in because they're, like, they say they're so hardcore about it. And, of course, then I show up and there's a huge long line anyway. But I had, like, crazy adrenaline dump, and that one did not go well. But what's the other thing? Oh, GPA. Yeah. I got, before I came to law school, and this will be a fun experience for some of you. Yeah, before I came to law school, I had gotten 1 B ever in my life in the maths. So I had a 3.96 when I graduated from undergrad.
Math is rough for everyone.
Yeah,
So I think the moral is if you can't do math, go
into law.
Go
You don't
into
have
law.
to do any math.
Hey, I was not that bad at math. That class was rigged.
I can't believe you got a B in math.
Yeah, B. Oh my god.
Pissed. I was actually pissed.
So let me just say let me just toot your guys' horns a little bit, and for all those who don't know the statistics. So the average LSAT is around 150 or somewhere around in that area. Now, University of Minnesota is a top 20 university if you rank by the U.S. News, and their median LSAT is 164. That puts you in the 90th percentile, which means that you did better than over 90% of other people, just by getting the median at the U of M. If you got a 168, that puts you in the 96th percentile of everybody who took the LSAT. That means that there's only 4% of people who take the test that they do as well or better than you guys do. So
4%, it falls to you.
So I don't know if you guys knew those statistics, but that is pretty impressive.
And this is nationwide, right?
This is nationwide.
Wow,
yes.
that's pretty impressive. And how many practice tests did you take, Hannah?
Quite a few. I don't remember the exact number, but I did actually. Normally, I refuse to prepare for things, but I did actually do practice tests.
Yeah.
I didn't time myself though either, like Abby was saying, which
I would just finish like as fast as possible. So because I didn't want to be doing it.
Yeah.
See, when I took the LSAT and I didn't time myself, I was like, gosh, I'm doing so well at this. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then you time. Then I would time myself, and I'm like, oh man, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's the biggest barrier.
The problem is too with the LSAT is they always have an experimental section.
Yeah.
So you have to go. It's an endurance thing.
It's an endurance thing, and one of those sections don't count towards your LSAT score, so it makes you flustered for sure.
Yeah, they're paying you to be their lab rat, or no, sorry, opposite of that.
Yeah,
we're paying them to be a lab rat. They can't just like study people and pay them as test subjects. Anyway,
We're their test subject.
Exactly.
Anthony, do you want to talk? I mean, these are big shoes to fill.
These are absolutely huge shoes to fill, and I have a feeling that maybe half the listeners here will fall into my category of people who do not prepare very well, didn't have to try very hard in school, and still managed to do it right until they got to law school. So, like I said, I started at UMD, couldn't cut the civil engineering track. I failed calculus, so that really dented my GPA. I never did retake the class in order to fix it because my ego had already been shattered to the point where I didn't want to do it again. So with that being in mind, I transferred to Hamlin, and I ended up with a GPA of a 3.4. So not too shabby for me. I didn't try very hard. That was always a big issue for everyone around me, is they're flustered by how much I did not try. So going on to take the LSAT, like I had said, I took one practice exam. I took it about 30 days before the exam, or before my scheduled exam. I took the one, but I did study over the answers and practice the questions multiple times in different orders and stuff. So I probably spent around 4 or 5 hours overall studying for the exam. It did reflect on my score. I've only ever taken any tests once. I only apply to one school at a time, so I only took my ACT once. I only took my LSAT once, and I only applied to one law school. I'm not going to count Auckland because that was just a rough time in my life. But my LSAT score was a 149, so I am just below Mitch's average for LSATs.
Just below average. New podcast name.
There we go.
Just below average. Yeah.
And but I knew that score would be good enough to get me into Mitchell Hamlin, so I settled on that quite quickly. And then with my calculus on my transcript, that did make a little red flag for. They saw that I had an F on one of my transcripts, so I had to do a little bit of a petition to say,